This screencast is the lecture on Chaucer, The Miller's Tale. Before reading The Miller's Tale, I asked that you read the short summary of The Knight's Tale. The reason that I did this is because The Knight's Tale and The Miller's Tale are tightly intertwined. You have to have a knowledge of both stories in order to appreciate what Chaucer is doing in The Miller's Tale. The first person to tell his story is the knight, who tells his tale about Arcita and Palamon and their love of Emily. This is a story of courtly love. We know that because the two knights fall in love with her at first sight, and they both suffer physically and emotionally for their love. The Knight's Tale is a proper romance story. The next pilgrim who is supposed to tell a story is the monk. But the miller butts in instead, saying that he wants to requite the knight's tale. In other words, he wants to answer it, to tell another tale that relates to it. The miller begins by saying, "Now hear me," said the miller, all and some. "But first I make a protestation round, that I'm quite drunk, I know it by my sound. And therefore if I slander or missay, blame it on the ale of Southwark, so I pray." The miller is apologizing in advance. In other words, don't blame the miller if you find this story offensive. Just blame it on the beer. Chaucer is being very crafty here with his writing. This might be a good place to take a look at what he's doing. Chaucer plays many roles in this text. He is the writer, the narrator, and also places himself as a pilgrim in the story. Of course, his character is not telling this tale. It's the miller's tale, after all, and the miller tells us that he is drunk. So let's say that you read this story and you are offended. Chaucer the writer would tell you that it is a story related by Chaucer the narrator, who is only trying to relate the story as closely as he can to the one that was told by the miller, who really can't be responsible either because he's drunk. Look how far Chaucer the writer, right way up here, has distanced himself from the story, even going so far as to add his own apology. "And therefore, every gentle soul, I pray, that for God's love you'll hold not what I say evilly meant, but that I must rehearse all of their tales, the better and the worse, or else prove false to some of my design. Therefore, who likes not this, let him in fine turn over page and choose another tale. For he shall find enough, both great and small, of stories touching on gentility and holiness and on morality. And blame not me if you do choose amiss. The miller was a churl, you well know this. So was the reeve and many another more, and ribaldry they told from plenteous store. Be then advised and hold me free from blame. Men should not be too serious at a game." This is lines 64 to 79 of the prologue, the Miller's prologue. So I love this apology because it works on so many levels. One, it absolves the storyteller from any guilt if the reader is offended. And two, it makes the reader really curious about what could possibly be so offensive. It makes you want to read the Miller's Tale. We have to ask ourselves why this story requires so much apology. Sure, it's a bawdy story and not in the best of taste, but there were a lot of bawdy stories around in Chaucer's day. What was it then that had him so nervous? It's not so much the content of the story that has him concerned, but what Chaucer has done with it that makes it so, well, dangerous. I think Romeo and Juliet might be a good analogy. Never saw the movie, so if it's bad, don't blame me. But anyway, it's a movie that took a Shakespearean tragedy and rewrote it as a comedy. In The Miller's Tale, Chaucer has taken the elements of The Knight's Tale and rewritten them as a comedy, substituting middle-class bumpkins for their aristocratic knights and ladies in that tale. So we have a requite, this answer to The Knight's Tale in The Miller's Tale. What aspects of The Knight's Tale has the miller changed? What elements has he kept? Also, who is he making fun of here? Is it the middle class or the upper class? If you'll remember, I said that The Knight's Tale was a tale of courtly love. How has the miller perverted the whole idea? Is Allison an idealized woman? is this tale one of where the woman is sexualized or where she is beatified? Um, is true love freely given? And are the people eternally faithful? Are they discreet? Look how many rules they're breaking in the whole courtly love idea. So, look at the elements of the story. Oops, let me go back. Look at the elements of the story. Um, we have a woman, two admirers, and a window. Here's the woman, here's the two admirers, and the window. How are these different in this story than they were in the Knight's Tale? Think especially about this window. How is this window different than the window that's in the Miller's Tale? The importance that this window plays in both tales can't be overstressed. So look at how Chaucer has taken these elements and twisted them around in the Miller's Tale. Compare the two women, Allison and Emily. These are paintings of each by an artist named Warwick Goebel. Can you tell which is which? And if you can, how? How do Nicholas and Absalom compare to Arcita and Palamon? Compare these characters between the tales. See what Chaucer is doing. So we come down to the big moment of the tale, when Allison decides to play her prank on Absalom. Yeah, sorry, I had to include a but. This Allison plumped down upon his, or Absalom plumped down upon his knees and said, I am a lord in all degrees, for after this there may be better still. Darling, my sweetest bird, I wait your will. The window she unbarred, and that in haste. Have done, said she, come on and do it fast, before we're seen by any neighbor's eye. This Absalom did wipe his mouth all dry. Dark was the night as pitch, aye, dark as coal, and through the window she put out her hole. And Absalom no better felt no worse, but with his mouth he kissed her naked arse. Right greedily, before he knew of this, aback he leapt. It seemed somehow amiss, for well he knew a woman has no beard. He'd felt a thing all rough and longish-haired, and said, Oh fie, alas, what did I do? Tee-hee, she laughed, and clapped the window to. Absalom, of course, is totally humiliated when he realizes that that beard is, in fact, Allison's pubic hair. One would think that no one in this tale could be humiliated any worse. But then we come to John. Think about the four main characters in this tale: Allison, Absalom, Nicholas, and John. Who is the most humiliated at the end of the tale? If you had to create a ranking of humiliation, who would you put at the top of the list, and who would you say is the least humiliated? So then, based upon your list, what would you say might be Chaucer's moral to this story? There certainly must be something that he's trying to tell us, so really think about that. He leaves us with these parting words. Thus futtered was the carpenter's good wife, for all his watching and his jealousy, and Absalom has kissed her nether eye, and Nicholas is branded on the butt. This tale is done, and God save all the rout.